did not remember a time before pain, not clearly at least. His earliest memory was not of warmth or laughter, but of sound, the low creak of a door opening at night, the careful way silence entered a room, like something alive that could hear him breathe. Even then, as a child small enough to believe walls had ears, he learned the first rule of survival: be quiet, be invisible, endure. Pain was not always loud. That was the strange part. Sometimes it came softly, dressed as disappointment, as absence, as words that were never said. Other times it arrived like a storm, undeniable and violent, leaving bruises on the body or cracks in the soul that no one else seemed to notice. As he grew, pain grew with him. It learned his shape. When he was 7, he learned that love could disappear without explanation. His mother used to hum while washing dishes, a tired melody that floated through the apartment like a fragile promise. One day, the humming stopped. The dishes stayed unwashed. The door closed behind her with a finality that felt heavier than any scream. Adults said she was gone for a while. A while became forever. He waited by the window every evening for months, convinced that patience was a kind of magic. He imagined her shadow stretching across the pavement, imagined the sound of keys, the door opening. Eventually, the waiting itself became painful, an ache behind the ribs, a constant pressure in the chest. That was when he learned his second lesson. Hope, when left unanswered, can hurt more than despair. At school, he was the quiet one. Teachers praised him for being well-behaved, not realizing that obedience was his armor. Other children laughed easily, cried loudly, lived without caution. He watched them like a foreign species, fascinated and distant. When they pushed him, he did not push back. When they mocked him, he memorized their words and replayed them at night, dissecting each insult like evidence in a trial against himself. Pain taught him how to turn inward. It taught him to question his worth, to believe that if something was wrong, it must be wrong with him. Over time, that belief settled into his bones. By the time he was 15, pain had become familiar, almost intimate. It sat beside him on the bus, followed him home, waited for him in the dark. He wrote in notebooks no one would ever read, filling pages with questions he was too afraid to ask aloud. Why do people leave? Why does it hurt even when nothing is happening? Is this all I am? He discovered that pain could be productive. It sharpened his focus, fueled his discipline. While others escaped into parties and noise, he stayed up late studying, working, pushing himself until exhaustion drowned out emotion. Achievement became another kind of shield. But shields are heavy. Carry them long enough, and they leave marks. Adulthood arrived without ceremony. There was no moment when everything made sense, only a slow accumulation of responsibility. Bills replaced homework. Silence replaced guidance. He learned how to survive on his own, but no one taught him how to live. Pain matured with him. It grew quieter, more refined. No longer screaming, it whispered. It told him he was replaceable, that he was easy to forget. That connection was dangerous, so he kept people at a distance. He smiled at the right moments, said the right things, performed normality with practiced ease. Inside, he felt hollow, as if something essential had been removed early in life and never returned. Sometimes late at night, he pressed his hand against his chest just to feel his heart beating, proof that something inside him was still alive. Love found him unexpectedly. She laughed in a way that felt honest, unguarded. When she looked at him, she didn't look through him. She saw. That terrified him more than loneliness ever had. He wanted to believe in her. He wanted to rest, to lower his defenses, to stop fighting ghosts from his past. But pain had trained him well. It stood between them, suspicious, alert. Every kind word made him flinch. Every silence felt like abandonment. Every disagreement sounded like an ending. Eventually, his fear became a self-fulfilling prophecy. He pulled away before she could leave. He chose solitude over vulnerability because solitude, at least, was predictable. When she walked out, the pain returned, older now, sharper, disappointed in him. "You see," it whispered, "this is what happens when you hope." Years passed. He aged, but something inside him remained frozen at the moment of his first loss. He carried his history quietly, like a scar beneath clothing. People admired his strength, unaware that it was born from necessity, not confidence. Pain had shaped him, but it had not destroyed him. Not entirely. One evening, after a long day that felt heavier than most, he sat alone and realized something new. He was tired of surviving, tired of bracing for impact, tired of living as if every good thing required payment in advance. For the first time, he asked a different question. Not why does it hurt, but what if it doesn't have to hurt like this forever? That question frightened him. It cracked something open. Healing did not arrive like a miracle. It arrived slowly, awkwardly, often painfully. Some days felt like progress, others felt like failure. He learned that growing up with pain meant unlearning it, piece by piece. He spoke about his past, haltingly at first. He let himself feel grief without judgment. He discovered that strength could mean asking for help, that courage could look like softness. Pain did not disappear. It never does. But it changed. It stopped being a master and became a teacher. Now, when he looks back, he does not romanticize his suffering. He does not thank it, but he understands it. Pain raised him when no one else did. It taught him awareness, empathy, depth. It taught him how fragile people are and how resilient. He grew up alongside pain, yes, but he also grew beyond it. And for the first time in his life, he allows himself to believe that the story is not over, that somewhere ahead, there may be chapters written not in endurance, but in peace.